No manga spoilers. So you anime watchers, you're good. Even though I don't know why you still exist, even especially at this time. Come over to the good side, man. Come. You could be experiencing peak, but you're just sitting here watching PNGs, man. I don't know. Ego Jinpachi, the enigmatic Cheshire cat-like entity which is the sole reason for Bluelock's existence. But despite his importance, we know very little about his history and what led him to become the greatest football coach pretty much ever. We get hints to this in the current manga, especially after a certain reveal. This reveal showed us a glimpse into his history, most importantly told us, the viewer, that the author has his backstory in mind and will likely get a whole mini-arc dedicated to his backstory. Think Gojo backstory. I think personally it needs to be more than a few chapters given the weight of his character. But before we get into the title of this video, what do we know so far about his backstory? Well, we know he used to play football. This can be inferred by lines like this, and his intimate knowledge of the game. This only makes sense. And on that note, it's likely that he wasn't just good, but a top U20 striker due to his intimate knowledge of how to get there. And this is even supported by statements in the manga. So then why retire? As I said, I believe he was one of the best, so I doubt he would just quit, especially with recent developments. No, the only reason why I think he should be something out of his control, like say an injury. Two things that help this. One, the fact that nobody knows him. This implies he most likely stopped his career prematurely before he became a household name. And number two, it just makes a good poetic parallel that Ego's career took place when he was also a U20 striker. So following this, I assume there was a lot of soul searching, even debating on getting back on the horse, and either by intention or happenstance, he found a new path. If he couldn't become the world's best, it would be just as satisfying to create the world's best. But Bluelock doesn't come just yet. Before Bluelock, he has a trial run of sorts. He trains a young talent. Now, there's a lot of ways this could transpire. Maybe he's the godfather of the boy. Maybe he found him on the street. Maybe he was a coach and saw potential. Maybe he trained him to see if his crazy idea would work. Maybe training him gave him the crazy idea. Either way, this kid would be Ego's first lump of talent, which he would try to mold into the world's best striker, a secret apprentice. Now, right now it sounds a little too baseless, so let me try to add some more meat onto this theory as to why it fits the story so well. The foremost reason is that Ego is a perfect coach, so perfect in fact that the author states that everything Ego says is supposed to be right, and thus Ego is the highest authority when it comes to football, especially strikers. But my question is, how? We assume he must have done some research, played football himself, as I said before, even learned from other coaches, but in my estimation, you can't get this good without having a trial run, without having that first-hand experience, because there's just some things you need to learn first-hand, the subtle nuances, the details. Hell, how he even came to the conclusion that he was capable of doing such a feat. Maybe this is a part of why he was given such a lofty budget in the first place. I'm sure they didn't give him all of this money based on blind faith. No, for all this to make sense, in my opinion, he must have produced some kind of result in the past. And to be fair, there are likely other factors which contributed to this, like connections he had made in the past, especially with that man. But since this is Bluelock and other reasons I'll get into, it only makes sense that he trained a single striker. And I actually have an idea who this striker is. And who this striker is, well, I think that'll end up being the other New Gen 11 striker. A quick reminder, New Gen 11s are players who sit at the absolute pinnacle of the U20 world. They represent the future of football, with Hitoshi Sai being the first person we get to see. And it's widely accepted in the community that the reason why it's called New Gen 11, not New Gen 10 or New Gen 12, is each member is designated each position on the pitch. And it would make the most sense, especially in a story about strikers, that there's at least one more New Gen 11 striker, with the other one being revealed in the manga. Personally, I think there'll be two of each position, so 2 strikers, 2 midfielders, 2 wingers, 2 wing backs, 2 fullbacks, and 1 goalie. It just makes sense. And because this is Bluelock, there might be a disproportionate amount of strikers compared to the other positions on the pitch, but I see that we will at least get 2. And this one that I'm talking about will be better than the one that we're seeing in the manga. And this is mainly because of simple power progression. And the other New Gen 11 being Ego's old protege works double time, giving him a connection to the main cast and an interesting reason to why he's one of the best U20 strikers. And yeah, Kanashiro could just have him spawn in and the other characters be like, whoa, he's really talented like the other New Gen 11 striker. But this is potentially one of the main bosses and the final world-class striker in the U20 World Cup. And as this is a story about strikers, I think they got to do something special for him. And what better than having the reason why he is so good is that he's essentially the prototype, the alpha test, the original Bluelocker. Someone that knows almost all of Ego's teachings. I don't know, I think that's sick. And if I'm wrong, I hope someone sends this to Kanashiro so he can change it. And in terms of backstory, I think him having a falling out with Ego makes sense as tension, as drama, and as an interesting element to their dynamic. And this may be why the Blue Lockers win, because he didn't fully align with Ego's teachings. Because as we know, Ego is the all-seeing god in this manga. Okay, now I'm going to go into a light spoiler section for the manga to elaborate further on some bits. Go to this time if you ain't caught up or don't want to see it. Now, looking at the manga stuff, I think it could be cool that he is the reason why Sai lost his ego. I know a lot of people think it's Luna, but I don't know. I have no real issues with this besides the fact that him losing his ego to somebody around the same age as him would make a little bit more sense. I mean, if he gets clapped by a 20-something-year-old, it's very easy to chalk that up to experience, and him losing badly to someone who's supposed to be on his level makes more sense. And that's for the concrete stuff. Let's get a little bit more creative, a little bit more fanficky. In the preceding section, it won't be a theory as much, just giving you an idea of what type of abilities this man will have, or could have. When making a striker at this point in the story, it's pretty hard. So many abilities have been explored and utilized. Fast shot, long shot, curve shot, fake shot. A lot of these have been done, and we've got to get more creative to have someone be strong. There is a very integral binary decision to make with this striker, that being, is he an instinctual player or a rational player? Obviously, you got your instinctual players like Bartra, Nagi, Zantetsu, or your rational players like Ryo, Isagi, Nico. At first, I thought of him being a rational player would work, as it's Ego's apprentice, and Ego is probably the most logical person we've seen, and most likely a world-type egoist, as we've seen many parallels towards Isagi. And it would serve as a great contrast to Isagi, but I reasoned against that because we already have so many Isagi clones. Rin, Nico, that other guy that if you've read the manga, you know who I'm talking about. So if anything, I think he should be a reflection of Nagi and Isagi, a very, very talented person who also has extreme intelligence. And also one other thing from Isagi, which we will talk about in a second. And I think this character should be the most egotistical, self-driven person in the show. And I think he'll be the combination of the top Blue Lock strikers' strongest weapons. One of the main ones being is that he'll also be an adaptability genius, but not exactly the same as Isagi. He will have multiple weapons, and these will all coalesce into a playing style without form. He will have no set playing style and change depending on the team he faces. Think of playing a fighting game. Every other character in the story has a set main, which in this analogy would be their playing style, but he picks the randomizer every single time. And this will be very difficult for Isagi specifically because he would be practically unreadable. His ego would be nothing like running past people, being the king, or winning. His ego will be simply for him to be pushed and feel the rush of the game. An ever-changing entity who lives for a challenge. He is extremely gifted, and because of that, he'll often change his playing style mid-match in order to get a challenge, and giving himself restrictions to enhance the challenge. So he's an adaptability genius like Isagi, but he's so talented, he uses it just to try new stuff instead of actually trying to beat someone. Kind of a Kenpachi-like character. I think this ego would contrast the entire cast very well. He'll be kind of like Ryo, but not copying. He's taking inspiration and then making his own thing, and he would have the most weapons in the show. He'll do stuff like score in his own net, force 3v1s, only use his weak foot, and the ways you could beat him is by either making him underestimate you or have someone who's just ridiculously physically adept to force him into his natural playing style. And you know, I think that's pretty cool. We've had egotistical characters, but all of them have had a certain goal. So I think an egotistical character that doesn't really care what way he plays as long as he gets to have fun, I feel like that's quite interesting. And obviously the mangaka is inspired by shonen, and characters like Kenpachi and stuff are big parts of shonen, and we haven't really got a character like that. So I think it makes sense. I think it's cool. Also relating to Isagi's adaptability, I don't know, I think it all works kind of well, but obviously this is just a possibility. There's no real way to know what specifically is going to make this character play like. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the video. And even though at this point in the story this might be kind of a reach, come on, you can't say that that wouldn't be sick. I thought it was just a fun idea and I needed to share it. But tell me what you think about the theory, and regardless if it's Ego's apprentice, tell me what you think the new Gen 11 striker will play like. I've got a couple more Blue Lock videos locked in the chamber. I've got the Kuroko X Blue Lock video, which is coming soon, and also a video about creating domain expansions for characters that don't have them for JJK, which has been locked in the basement for too long. But yeah, anyway, let that outro play, man. Cause I see that sort of, oh shit, why you wanna throw shit by? Go away, cause you so sorry, you so